And you're in the military summary channel. In this video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous 12 hours. We have lots of very interesting updates, so let's start. The trilateral meeting between the United States of America, Ukraine and the Russian Federation on the territory of the United Arab Emirates ended. The sources are saying that these talks ended without progress. Some sources are saying that there is small progress but nothing special. We have some insights, let's discuss them. According to information we have, the Russian Federation proposed to divide the electricity of the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant between Ukraine and Russia. If you remember, the United States of America proposed to do almost the same, but the United States of America wanted or wants to be in charge of this process. As for the concessions, according to information we have, Ukraine hasn't made any concessions regarding territorial issues. Ukraine reject the idea of withdrawal their troops from the rest of the Donetsk region. Meanwhile, the Russians continue bombing and attacking the territory of Ukraine with missiles and drones, and as we discussed during the previous videos, currently there is a very huge problem with energy sector. During the previous 12 hours, according to pro-Russian sources, the Russians launched 104 drones, and Ukrainians, according to the Minister of Defense of Ukraine, managed to bring down 87 drones. Furthermore, we have additional reports about the energy system. The situation in the country's energy system after another massive shelling remains difficult, especially in Kyiv. As a result of Russian shelling, more than 3,200 high-rise buildings are currently without heat. More than 160 repair teams are working on the ground. Another important thing, the stable operation of the water supply in the city is gradually being restored. The left bank and the right bank are with water. The sewage system is operating normally. In Chernihiv, more than 400,000 customers were left without electricity in the morning. Currently, electricity has been restored. Heat and water are available in the city. So as you can see, the Ukrainians are restoring the situation. Another important thing, for the first time in a long time, Russia has launched Ha-22 cruise missiles at Kyiv. That was stated by Yuri Ignat, the head of the Air Force Command's communication department. They can carry different payloads, and their particular feature is that the combat weight of this missile is 950 kilos. So this is the missiles we were talking about yesterday. Now let's discuss the situation with energy supply in the city of Kyiv. There are lots of power stations through the city of Kyiv. For example, this is the power station number 2. And according to different sources, the power station number 2 is not operating for known reasons, at least for today. So these are the changes between the dates between the 21st of January and 24th of January. So we see no smoke above this power station, which means that for some reason this power station is not operating. As for the power station number 5, we can see hot production on the other side. Kyiv Thermal Power Plant 5, smoke obviously working. So which means that the Russians, despite numerous attacks that they carry out during the previous days and previous months, this power station still works and still support the city of Kyiv. As for the power station number 4, we see that this power station doesn't work. According to information we have, power station 4 has not been operating since January 20th, but it is obvious that this episode has not yet been linked to the shelling. So something happened there, but as of now it's very difficult to understand. Another power station is the power station number 6. According to information we have, this power station doesn't operate. Hot production on the other side. Kyiv Thermal Power Plant number 6 went into lockdown. And here we can see the changes and the differences between these let's say satellite picture of the power station between different dates, and the sources are saying that here we can see the differences before and after Ha-22 missile strike. So the sources are saying that the main facility was completely destroyed. We're talking about these territories. So this facility was destroyed as a result of attack with Ha-22 missiles. So summarizing everything, we see that despite numerous attacks carried out by Russians, there are still several power plants that continue operating. At least the thermal power plant number 5 still works. Now let's talk about the northern part of the Chernihiv region. Here we can see another power plant. This is a fresh picture of this area. Hot production on the other side. Chernihiv thermal power plant, smoke working. So as you can see, despite different statements and different, let's say, words that were articles that were published by pro-Ukrainian sources, we see that the power stations in the northern part of Ukraine are still working and are still operating. Furthermore, as for this territory, during the previous 12 hours, the Russians attacked this territory with a significant number of Iskander missiles. And this is the video that was published by pro-Russian sources. In this video, we can see how Ukrainians were preparing a launching site with the purpose to attack with drones deep inside of the territory of the Russian Federation. But the Russians managed to discover the preparation of this attack. The Russians managed to discover the radar. The Russians managed to discover a vehicle, most likely something like a command center. And we see that the Ukrainians took positions on the territory of this small forest. We're talking about command center of this launching site. And when the Russians discovered this, the Russians attacked this territory with another Iskander missile. As a result of this attack, most likely the command center was completely destroyed, and the Ukrainians haven't managed to launch drones deep inside of the territory of the Russian Federation. Another important update is coming from the city of Kryvyi Rog. People continue protests through the city almost every single day. We are receiving more and more pictures, more and more videos of how people and civilians are blocking streets, demanding the local authorities to restore energy supply in their micro district or in their part of the city. Now let's discuss the situation on the ground, and first let's talk about the Sumy direction. The Russians continue concentrating of their forces along the border and along the line of combat contact. This video was published by pro-Ukrainian sources, and here we can see how Ukrainians attacked the city of Tyotkino with aviation bomb. Most likely the Russians were trying to concentrate a critical mass before moving further inside of the territory of Ukraine. Another video is coming from the territory of the settlement of Yunakivka. Here you can see the same story. The Ukrainians managed to discover another temporary deployment point of the armed forces of the Russian Federation, and they attacked this temporary deployment point with aviation. So the Russians most likely are entering the final phase of the preparation of the Sumy offensive operation. When they finish the concentration of forces, they will try to push and they will try to move further in the direction of the city of Sumy itself. The Kharkiv-Belgorod direction. During the previous 12 hours, we received lots of updates. According to information we have, the armed forces of Ukraine attacked the city of Belgorod with a significant number of HIMARS missiles. The sources are saying, and the governor of the Belgorod region reported that the attack that took place during the previous night was the biggest attack on the city of Belgorod since the beginning of the special military operation. According to pro-Russian sources, the Ukrainians were attacking objects of energy facilities and energy infrastructure. Currently, according to media, there are problems with energy supply and power outages through the entire city of Belgorod. At the same time, the Russians continue their offensive operation in the northeastern part of the Kharkiv region. During the previous 12 hours, additional changes on the ground were recorded. So this is the situation, for example, by the end of the 19th of January of 2026, the Russians improved their positions during the previous 5 days significantly, as you can see, and this is the situation by the end of the 25th of January. So according to the latest updates, the Russians are about to finish the battle for the settlement of Gravskaya, which will open the Russians the possibility to advance further in the southern direction and to begin clashes for the villages of Verkhnya Pisarevka, Shesterevka and Losovka. The Russians will continue advancing in the southern direction with the purpose to outflank the main defense belt of the city of Belgorod from the west, and then the Russians may try to attack the settlement of Belgorod from behind. At the same time, the Russians continue their offensive operation along the border. During the previous 12 hours, pro-neutral mappers adjusted their maps, showing additional progress on the ground of the armed forces of the Russian Federation on the line between the villages of Chugunovka and Verigovka. So it seems that the Russians began offensive operation with the purpose to establish complete control over the territory along the border between the most northeastern part of Kharkiv region and the territory around the river Voskol. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation in the Slaviansk direction. During the previous 12 hours, the Russians continued their offensive operation. The Russians continued attacking the logistics of the armored forces of Ukraine in this area, trying to exhaust as much as possible the contingents of the armored forces of Ukraine on the territories of the city of Liman and to the east of the city of Slaviansk. As for the Kramatorsk, during the previous 12 hours, we received lots of videos of how Russians were attacking temporary deployment points of the armored forces of Ukraine in this area. Here we can see how the Russians discovered another temporary deployment point of the armored forces of Ukraine, and when the Russians discovered this temporary deployment point, they attacked this territory with aviation. As a result of attack, we can see a very heavy explosion and the secondary detonation. This is the first strike, and the second attack took place a bit further to the west in the central part of the city of Kramatorsk. Here we can see a very heavy explosion. The sources are saying that the Russians attacked another ammo depot or a warehouse. The Russians also improved their positions along MO3 road, and these are the changes on the ground between the dates. So just yesterday we discussed that for some reason the Russians stopped their offensive operation in this area, and this morning we received a report that the Russians improved their positions along MO3 road according to information that was provided by a neutral mapper. As for the Dobropolye direction, during the previous 12 hours, small changes on the ground were recorded. The Russians improved their positions around the village of Dorozhny, so just small adjustment. Furthermore, the Russians continue offensive operation in the area of the settlement by the name of Grishna. Here we can see how Russians were bombing and attacking positions of the armored forces of Ukraine in the central part of the city. As for the Dnipropetrovsk direction, during the previous days, the Russians launched several offensive operations with the purpose to improve their positions and to take under complete control of the territory between the villages of Ivanovka and Novopavlovka. So these are the changes on the ground between the dates, between the previous 2 or 3 days. This is the end of the 21st of January, this is the end of the 23rd of January, and this is the beginning of the 25th of January. Furthermore, pro-Ukrainian sources published this video where we can see how exactly the Russians were attacking positions of the armored forces of Ukraine in this area. Here we can see at least 3 infantry fighting carriers that were moving towards the settlement of Novopavlovka, and how Ukrainians were attacking them with FPV drone, trying to slow down the Russians and not to allow them to bring additional reinforcements and reserves in the direction of the settlement itself. So most likely this offensive operation was stopped by the armored forces of Ukraine, but despite these attacks, the Russians managed to improve their positions and the Russians continue their offensive operation. As for the Zaporozhye direction, during the previous 12 hours, the most important updates are coming from the western Zaporozhye direction. According to neutral mappers, the Russians during the previous 12 hours improved their position significantly by taking under complete control small trenches, fortifications, tree lines in the fields and through the territory between the cities of Stepnogorsk, Orekhov and Zaporozhye. And furthermore, we see that the Russians intensified their offensive operation in the eastern direction with the purpose to get as close as possible to the city of Orekhov from the west. Currently, we see that this offensive operation, the Orekhov offensive operation, is the primary task for the armored forces of the Russian Federation, and most likely this gap the Russians will try to take under complete control within the next months. According to this configuration over the front line, we believe that the battle for the Orekhov agglomeration from the west will begin within a month or a month and a half. And that's it for the short video. Military Summary channel reminds we condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching, subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.